7 p.m.
Immigration procedures at the new Woodlands checkpoint go smoothly, while the Malaysians continue to process passengers at Tanjong Pagar. A call for ASEAN members to stay united in times of crisis. And new hope in the fight against breast cancer. Good evening. Singapore immigration clearance of train passengers at the new $26 million Woodlands checkpoint began today. And although Malaysian immigration did not relocate from Tanjong Pagar railway station, they did not stamp passports of passengers heading for Malaysia at the station today. Our reporting team with the story.
Passengers began gathering at Tanjong Pagar station as early as 6:15 this morning. They were there to catch the first train to Kuala Lumpur, scheduled to leave the station at 8:15. Unlike previously, when Malaysian immigration officials stamped passengers' passports before they boarded the train, today was different. With Singapore immigration officers no longer present to lend them legal authority, Malaysian immigration officials just electronically scanned passengers' passports.
Keying in means it's recorded in our computer, it's recorded inside, and I think so we have a record. So where the passenger depart, from Malaysia, we will know when they depart.
Passengers were told to keep their regulation white entry and exit forms and their train tickets for use at their point of exit in Malaysia. But many were not able to get hold of the forms to begin with. Adding to the confusion, some passengers who came armed with the forms had theirs collected by immigration officers at the counters. This left many wondering what the proper procedure was. On board the train, some expected immigration clearance to be carried out, but this did not happen. When the train reached the Woodlands train checkpoint, passengers disembarked for Singapore immigration formalities. With 6 immigration booths in operation, clearance was smooth. And the train arrived at the Johor Bahru train station at about 9:50 a.m. There, passengers were allowed to freely leave the train station without going through any immigration clearance. Officials said passports of return passengers would be stamped if they could produce their train ticket and white immigration form. But for those who had not managed to get any forms earlier, it wasn't until they approached the immigration staff that they obtained them. And contrary to the earlier information, some Singaporeans did not have their cards collected when they returned to Singapore. Neither were their passports stamped.
And we have just received word that officials from Johor told our reporters their immigration procedures today are interim and only for the next 3 months. It was stated by both the director of Johor Bahru Immigration Headquarters, Haji Kamal Kamdi, as well as the chairman of Johor State Tourism Committee, Jimmy Low. Malaysia's Prime Minister Dr. Mahathir Mohamad has called on Singapore to settle the issue over the Malaysian immigration checkpoint at the Tanjong Pagar railway station.
I have just been briefed regarding the dispute. I need a little bit of time to think about what we need to do. It is not our wish to have any dispute with Singapore.
Dr. Mahathir was speaking to reporters this morning on his return from an overseas trip. He said that the initiative lies with Singapore and that the dispute was started by Singapore and not Malaysia. Malaysia's CIQ operations, he said, will function as usual. Asked if he was confident that the dispute would be settled without third-party intervention, Dr. Mahathir said he hopes to and will try. Singapore's Foreign Minister S. Jayakumar yesterday told Parliament that Singapore had gone to considerable lengths to resolve the issue with Malaysia. He said Singapore has tried to be consistent, reasonable and helpful at every stage of its dealings with Malaysia. He highlighted that Malaysia, which initially agreed to move its CIQ to Woodlands, abruptly changed its mind last year and now wants to remain at Tanjong Pagar. Deputy Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong has urged ASEAN members to maintain a corporate culture of cooperation so as to pull through the present hard times together. He said it would be a costly mistake to allow the crisis to undermine what ASEAN has achieved these past years and derail its plans for the future.
Addressing the 16th ASEAN Ministers on Energy meeting, Brigadier General Lee said the crisis is a major test of ASEAN's resilience and unity. He cited the annual meeting of the energy ministers and Singapore's recent deal to buy natural gas from West Natuna, Indonesia, as examples of long-term cooperation within ASEAN.
Whether ASEAN remains a credible grouping depends very much on ourselves. We must not abandon the vision of free and open trade which has underpinned our prosperity all these years. We must continue to strengthen economic cooperation and to work towards our long-term goals.
The next few years will be a period of considerable economic restructuring and uncertainty, said General Lee. And there's no quick or easy cure to get ASEAN's economies back on their feet quickly or to restore the status quo ante.
But Asia retains important strengths, including hard-working, well-educated populations and good economic infrastructure. Eventually, Asia will recover, confidence will return, and the economies will grow again.
ASEAN countries in difficulty are starting to undertake reforms, he said, and should emerge leaner and stronger after the crisis.
The ASEAN ministers meeting in Singapore have endorsed a framework which translates the ASEAN Energy Vision 2020 into action. It provides broad policy initiatives to realize the trans-ASEAN energy networks covering the ASEAN power grid and trans-ASEAN gas pipelines projects. The ministers also said the ASEAN power grid would expand to include the Thailand, Laos and Vietnam interconnection. They also noted there was a proposal to prepare a master plan for the ASEAN power grid interconnection to move forward the ASEAN vision of electricity interconnection. The next ASEAN ministers meeting on energy will be held in Thailand next July. And the need to band together was also echoed by Home Affairs Minister Wong Kan Seng. He's urging Singaporeans to stay united in the face of these trying economic times.
Speaking at a People's Association award ceremony, Mr. Wong reminded Singaporeans of how fast loss of confidence can spread across the region. He said Singapore has suffered less because of its strong fundamentals, which include heavy investments in education and training. But if Japan, Hong Kong and China are unable to resolve the economic problems, he said another devastating typhoon will rip through the region. So Singaporeans must upgrade their skills and remain united so they can stay ahead when the region recovers. Mr. Wong presented long service awards to some 240 PA staff. Another 22 received commendation awards for their devotion to work.
At another presentation this morning, Senior Minister of State for Health, Dr. Aileen Wong, urged private companies to invest in Singapore's talent by promoting volunteerism. She says community work can give volunteers invaluable experience and skills, citing many employers abroad who recognize it as valid work experience.
Some American universities even cite community work as an important criterion for selection of candidates. However, Dr. Wong pointed out character development as the more important outcome of community work, as this gives a volunteer invaluable skills that can help him in various ways in his workplace. She also stressed the role community organizations can play in creating the necessary environment for volunteerism to thrive. Dr. Wong urged private organizations to play their part by sponsoring community service projects and activities. She praised the efforts of the AIA, which has been giving out scholarships and awards since 1990 to students who excelled both in community work and academically. Amongst this year's recipients was Heng Chia Kien, who headed the Red Cross team that went to the humanitarian aid mission to Indonesia.
When distributing the food to the needy people, you can see the sense of gratitude in their eyes, and they're very, very thankful for it, and it gives you a sense of a sense of accomplishment.
And just the thing to help the Singapore Armed Forces in its humanitarian efforts. The Republic of Singapore Navy's launched its second homemade landing ship tank this morning. Doing the honours, Education Minister and Second Defence Minister Rear Admiral Teo Chee Hian. The first of the 4 locally built LSTs was launched earlier this year, and the next 2 are expected to be ready by the year 2001. The new ships, like this RSS Resolution, are said to be larger and faster than their predecessors and will be used to transport Singapore Armed Forces personnel and equipment for training overseas. A 27-year-old Central Narcotics Bureau officer has died after shooting himself in the head with his service revolver early this morning. Police said he had gone to Ward 58 at the National University Hospital to chat with a female nurse in the staff room. It's believed the gunshot injury is self-inflicted. The spent round and the revolver were recovered with all remaining bullets intact. No one else was injured. In another case, the parang-wielding man wounded by the police at Woodlands on Tuesday is now said to have allegedly slashed 2 people in Kluang, Johor earlier. Police say, according to their Johor CID counterparts, the man, Devaraja Supaya, was charged in court. He was sent to a mental hospital for evaluation, but escaped on the 15th of last month. The 30-year-old Malaysian, who sustained 5 gunshot wounds when he attacked the police here, is still at Alexandra Hospital's intensive care unit. Police are still investigating how he entered Singapore. A managing director was robbed of $40,000 at Tampines Central just after he'd withdrawn the money.
The robbery took place outside Tampines CPF building just before noon yesterday. Mr. Lim Chui Kim, who runs a trucking and logistics business, had just visited the bank to withdraw money for his workers' salaries.
When I come out from the bank, I suspect that it's a one Chinese guy wearing a helmet and driving a motorbike. Then I was prepared myself to be careful of him.
Despite his caution, as he was crossing the road, a second man snatched his envelope containing the money. Mr. Lim said the man, believed to be a Bangladeshi, ran towards the waiting motorcyclist and they sped off. Police urge eyewitnesses to call 445-0000.
Over 55,000 spectators are now enjoying the NDP preview at the National Stadium, a sneak peek of the celebrations before next week's parade. With tickets to both events always a much sought-after item, parade organisers have warned members of the public not to fall for black market touts and scams.
For Singaporeans, it's the party of the year, and everyone, it seems, scrambles to get their hands on a ticket. But unfortunately, like in past years, black marketeers have reared their ugly heads again. Clearly, such scenes of people queuing overnight at distribution centres, now an annual ritual, show the lengths many are willing to go to grab the coveted tickets. And TCS News understands, whether via the phone, the internet, word of mouth, or other informal arrangements, NDP tickets have changed hands for as much as $100 to $200 each.
We have given the ticket free of charge to the nation so that the people who want to come and celebrate together have the opportunity to do so. And this is certainly not meant for people to take advantage of. This occasion is not an occasion where we can sell the ticket for a profit, take advantage of the nation for a profit.
Colonel Toh's advice: don't fall into the trap of such opportunistic sellers out to make a quick buck. And to drive the point home, organisers have printed the words "not for sale" clearly across the back of each ticket. Organisers warn they've also added security features like a special ink which will reveal the word "void" across the face of each ticket if it is duplicated illegally. In any case, even if you don't have one of these, you can still catch the whole parade in its entire splendour live from your own TV screen next Sunday.
And now let's check on the evening traffic. No problems on the CTE at Potong Pasir in both directions. US-Indonesian military relations take center stage in Jakarta today. That's world news when we return. Hello again. In Indonesia, the team set up by the government to look into the violence of the May riots has started talking to witnesses and victims. The Jakarta Post Daily says at least 22 people have so far stepped forward to give their account of what happened.
Reports of the violence in May, especially talk of brutal gang rapes targeted mainly at the ethnic Chinese, sparked an international outcry. That's why this new panel was set up 2 weeks ago to find out the truth behind the rumors and allegations. President B.J. Habibie says he'll take action once the investigators hand over their findings. But that isn't the only investigation in the spotlight. In Jakarta this weekend is U.S. Defense Secretary William Cohen. He made no comment after his talks with leaders this afternoon, but U.S. officials say he was expected to come with a warning that Jakarta need not expect any further security cooperation from the U.S. unless the military's human rights investigations now underway prove credible. The Pentagon suspended military ties with Jakarta in May after coming under fire for its joint training programs with Indonesia's Special Forces Unit, the same group that's now at the center of the military's investigations into the kidnappings of student activists earlier this year.
It's Army Day in China, the 71st anniversary of the People's Liberation Army, and this could prove to be a big year ahead in terms of reform and economics.
A reception held in Beijing for the Chinese military's top brass last night was an occasion to praise the work of the PLA on the eve of its 71st birthday. In a speech to hundreds of officers, including foreign envoys, the defense minister reaffirmed the army's commitment to modernization. China's People's Liberation Army was born out of the August 1st communist uprising back in 1927. Reforms in the last decade saw its strength trimmed by about 1 million troops to focus on training and technology. But the Chinese army today still remains the largest in the world. It's the latest change, a recent order by military chief President Jiang Zemin, that could be the most painful yet. He wants the army to cut off all ties with its vast network of commercial businesses, a bold move meant to stamp out corruption. The country's waiting to see what exactly will come of that. But in the meantime, the army and the people are living it up this weekend with a variety of activities certain to bring the old guards out dancing.
And in Cambodia, election officials, widely expected to announce preliminary results from Sunday's elections, have delayed it for up to 3 days.
A spokesman for the National Election Commission said the count for all 23 provinces has been completed, but problems in transporting the ballots to the capital for verification have caused delays. Both official and unofficial tallies so far show Prime Minister Hun Sen's Cambodian People's Party in the lead. In a move to deflect some international criticism, Hun Sen today appealed to local officials of his party to end their alleged post-election intimidation of opposition supporters. Hun Sen compared such tactics to those adopted by the Khmer Rouge and said they must be stopped. His administration also scored some points after police arrested a notorious Khmer Rouge commander wanted for the brutal murder of 3 Western hostages 4 years ago. There had been criticisms that the government allegedly knew of Nuon Pet's whereabouts for the last year, but were unwilling to apprehend him. The case caused considerable controversy, especially in Australia, because it was believed that the Cambodian government had mishandled the negotiations.
UN Secretary-General Kofi Annan has joined international observers in stepping up pressure on Myanmar's ruling military junta. Prompted by a call from U.S. Secretary of State Madeleine Albright, the UN chief spoke to the husband of opposition leader Aung San Suu Kyi this morning and says he's planning to send his representative to Yangon to persuade the government to enter into a dialogue with Ms. Suu Kyi. In the capital itself, riot police are maintaining a road blockade around the home of the Nobel Peace Laureate, following her removal by authorities to her home from her 6-day sit-in car protest. Until there's some progress on that front, students in Bangkok led protests in front of the Myanmar embassy today. They're demanding Myanmar's military government recognize elections won by Ms. Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy in 1990. The U.S. may finally be feeling the pinch of the Asian economic crisis. Figures just out show that its booming economy has slowed dramatically in the second quarter of the year. The U.S. economy has taken a beating from recent strikes at car giant General Motors, and U.S. farmers, usually a hardy lot, are beginning to succumb to despair, cursing a catastrophic drought and the Asian economic crisis that are costing them billions of dollars. Latest figures show the country's gross domestic product dipping to 1.4% in the second quarter, down from the sizzling 5.5% recorded in the first 3 months of the year.
The Asian financial crisis has literally led to a 30% decline in farm exports to Asia.
Despite the sharp slowdown, Mr. Clinton assures Americans the economy's still enjoying steady growth. But he says the new Japanese government's got to get a jump on its economic reforms, or it's going to spell tougher times ahead for Asia. But the U.S. media pounced on Mr. Clinton instead, hungry for some reaction to FBI investigations on a blue cocktail dress he's allegedly given former White House intern Monica Lewinsky.
I am looking forward to the opportunity in the next few days of testifying. I will do so completely and truthfully.
But to further complicate matters, Paula Jones, whose sexual harassment suit against the president was dismissed in April, is now appealing to have her case reinstated. Her lawyers say the Monica Lewinsky case shows that President Clinton habitually makes sexual advances to young, low-ranking employees. A near nightmare in Norway this morning. More on this dramatic rescue after the break. You're with News 5 at 7. Thanks for staying with us. fresh hope in the fight against breast cancer. Clinical trials have found a new test that can detect breast cancer without the need for surgery. Researchers hope to make it commercially available in Europe by year's end. They say its high rate of sensitivity can help cut the number of breast cancer cases through early and quick detection.
The technique is similar to an electrocardiogram. These sensors placed on the skin evaluate the electrical impulses emitted by lesions found on the breast, and according to researchers, actually determine the difference between a benign or cancerous lump, a much kinder alternative to a biopsy.
I think as a groundbreaking study, it's provided the first evidence that this new technique really could potentially be useful in diagnosis.
Over 600 women took part in the trials in Europe, and if the new technique is given the final go-ahead, doctors say it will not only save millions of dollars in surgery costs, but more importantly, ease the stress of women waiting for the outcome of their biopsy results.
Over in Norway, what started out as a nice trick for a horse rider and her trusted friend almost ended in a nightmare this morning. This horse sank into a bog and became stuck. Fortunately for the pair, help arrived shortly before they hit the bottom. But no matter how hard the rescuers tried to pull the animal out, the horse didn't move an inch. It took all the townspeople and almost all the townsmen to yank the horse to safety. But even with helicopters and all, the rescue operation lasted 4 hours. Also a lucky escape in northwest China. 3 Japanese tourists stranded in the middle of a remote desert were rescued after being spotted by a motorist traveling through the area. They'd been involved in a car accident and no one would have known about them if it hadn't been for the passing motorist who alerted rescue authorities. The 3 have since been airlifted to safety. A 72-year-old man suffered head injuries. His 2 companions escaped with minor injuries. Authorities have not released details of what caused the accident or the identities of the injured tourists. There was also lots of reasons to be grateful in the U.S. today. A baby bonanza at the Beth Israel Hospital in New York City has the mothers and fathers and doctors marveling at the unusual event. 6 sets of twins were born there in the last 24 hours. The special baby factory opened shop Thursday afternoon when Jacob and Joshua Hannah were born, and didn't stop delivering babies till 2 girls were born to the Chung family this morning. In between, there were lots of happy parents, doctors and hospital staff. One of the parents even suggested that there was potential for future dating opportunities here. And here's a quick check on tomorrow's weather. It'll be another wet morning with temperatures keeping between 24 and 32 degrees. More of the same over the next few days. Now a look at the region. And before we go, another look at the lead story. Singapore immigration clearance of train passengers at the new Woodlands checkpoint began today. And although Malaysian immigration did not relocate from Tanjong Pagar railway station, they did not stamp passports of passengers heading for Malaysia at the station. That's it for News 5 at 7. Join me at 10:30 for more of the latest. Bye for now.